Howdy ho everybody! Welcome back to another video from Magical Jill. I'm here today with my guest Degenerate Jay, and we're going to be talking about 5 reasons Arkham is so popular.
Am I allowed to speak?
No.
Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe some people will be here that don't know I got married because they're losers and they don't watch the other videos, which does make you a loser. So if you want to change that, you should watch the other videos. Like, I don't make the rules here. Okay, like I'm not throwing names and insults around. I'm just saying, like, that's biblical almost.
Biblical.
You gotta go with it. It's the absolute truth. But this is Jill, my wife. She has apparently taken over the channel and boycotted any rights that I have as a human being.
As I should. We're
going to be talking today about 5 reasons why the Arkham series is so popular. Be sure to leave a like and comment if you enjoy this, and check out some other stuff while you are here. I can't speak. Let's hop right into it.
Number 5.
So the first thing we're going to be talking about today is combat in the Arkham series and why that in particular made this series so special and popular. I mean, this isn't a what makes it special episode, which, by the way, you should check those out because we put a lot of work into them.
The guy who made those is problematic and I don't like him.
The guy who made those is you.
I rest my case.
But the combat in the Arkham games, it's rhythm-based, and it's like a modern take on the rhythm-based superhero combat thing that Spider-Man, people argue, did first. Arkham kind of did it better and revolutionized it, and as the Arkham games go on, especially in my opinion at the end towards Knight, the combat's kind of reached its peak, and it's just really, really good, really fluid, and really exciting and fun to play. And I think that's one of the things about these games that people absolutely love, and that's one of the reasons why they kept coming back to it.
Well, you talked about when it hits the end at Arkham Knight. I think it's worth pointing out, too, that when it hits the end at Arkham Knight, as long as you have these characters, because some of them are DLC, it's really interesting how different but the same it is, no matter who you're playing as. You know, if you are playing Arkham Asylum, obviously Knight is going to be the final end progression of that combat. Whether you like it or not, it's hit that level of fluidity and that level of pinballing around the room and stuff, which I understand is a lot for some people. But in general, you can go into Arkham Knight or even Arkham Origins, where it's, you know, Batman or Deathstroke or the Ninja Bruce Wayne, or Arkham Knight, where it's Batman, Harley Quinn, Robin, Nightwing, Catwoman, the list goes on and on, right? You can go into these different games and you play, and the combat feels fundamentally the same, but unique. You know, playing as Catwoman is a bit of a different experience than playing as Batman when you're stuck in a combat situation where you're, 1, pinballing around the room, but 2, you have use of more gadgets as Batman, but you are almost more nimble, it feels like, as Catwoman, even though I'm sure if you ran the numbers, you're not really. But the way that the animations are, they make you feel like each character that you're playing as through the combat, which I think is a really important and special thing to do. Are there issues with it in terms of them not putting enough gadgets in for some people, or not thinking out enough people with other elements of the game? Yeah. But when it comes to combat, it's really unique. Like, Harley Quinn.
Yeah, they feel very special and unique whenever you play them, but you can keep going.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, Harley Quinn is a great example of that. I mean, like, think about how she can go into her psycho mode and just instantly take people down. Batman doesn't do that.
But he can do that special thing where he takes down multiple people at the same time with his suit towards the end of Night, which I think is really fun.
Yeah, the multi-fear takedown.
And Catwoman can go on ceilings, and that's kind of an example of how they feel like they play the same with the whole taking people out and such, and being sometimes stealthy or rhythmic combat, but also having different personalities to them. And I think that's one big reason why the Arkham series got so popular, is you can play as a lot of characters that you really care about.
Number 4!
The next one is adult portrayal of subject matter. So it's interesting because Jill and I both talked about this in terms of our experience with Arkham, and I think that this series is able to be adult without crossing a line of inaccessibility or explicitness, even in something like Arkham Knight. And I know that that's a bit of a sore spot for some people. Some people wanted this game to be more adult, Arkham Knight, and even some of the R games in the series as well, to be more akin to like a rated R movie. But if you think about it, there's a lot of stuff shown in these games that you wouldn't necessarily see as readily in maybe old Batman movies, aside from, I guess, the Keaton ones, which were actually fairly explicit. Like, there's a lot of adult stuff going on here. I mean, Jill, you ran through some of these too. There's not just drug dealers and the abuse of narcotics and stuff. There's violence, general crime, corruption. There's a lot of stuff going on here that's not really kid concepts, but it's rated T usually.
We even mentioned, from a little bit of deep diving into the internet, there's some possible no-no assault in Origins when we talk about what happened with Mad Hatter and him kidnapping that girl Alice, and how some people think it was sort of implied that he, you know, did some...
Went all the way.
Yeah, no things to her.
Which I never thought about. It's interesting because there's nothing saying that explicitly in the game. However, I wouldn't be too surprised, I mean, with Jervis Tech doing that, because he's a nut job. Especially
with how upset she was at the end, saying things wouldn't be okay and how much she was crying. That's sort of something that after girls have that sort of thing happen to them, that's kind of how they react a lot of times, which is pretty dark. But the thing is, these games have some really dark themes like that. Like, even they have sexual portrayals of Ivy and Harley without turning them into some sort of joke.
And, you know, I would say, too, like, it's interesting because it's not done in a negative way, right? So, like, for example, Harley just carries herself that way. Ivy is just a very sultry character. I mean, the way she walks, the way she talks.
And she doesn't wear pants.
Yeah, exactly. She's, you know, a fantastic lady.
Yes.
But that's the thing with this, is that it's able to treat those concepts well without, I guess, really scaling them back or making a joke out of them or a caricature. Like, it is accessible to teenagers, but they treat the consumer of the products as if they were adults, or as if this were an adult product that took itself seriously. Look at Victor Zsasz, the story of Victor Zsasz in Arkham City, actually, where he runs you through what happened with his origin story and talks about how every time he kills someone, he's essentially curing them of their life and making a new mark on himself. This guy's a serial killer, detailing to you his modus operandi in a T-rated game. You know, this is not a child's toy, I guess, this game. Even Arkham Origins, one of the main concepts around the whole thing is police corruption and brutality. And it's interesting how they're able to dive so deeply into these different concepts and aspects of the game world without making it so much that this is some kind of AO game, or that people can't play it when they're a little younger, too.
And to be honest, this is a superhero game. It's kind of like how the Injustice series toned down a lot of their gore to be able to push superheroes to a teenage audience rather than make it rated M or above.
For Mortal Kombat fans, yeah.
Yes, because there are certain things that you just can't put in games that you want to have be rated T, and a lot of people won't buy games that are rated above T for their teenagers because, I don't know why, I never really understood. I think the rating system's stupid. But that's just kind of the truth, and you want to be able to open up your superhero game to as big of an audience as possible, because they don't do that well. I mean, look at a lot of the other superhero games we've encountered.
Yeah, that's true. It's, you would think that it would be the opposite, but I would argue superhero games doing well is almost an anomaly. Look through the entire PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 generation of video games, and you'll find, you know, 9 out of 10 of the superhero games you encounter were not successful. Captain America Super Soldier, X-Men Origins Wolverine, because it was tied to a garbage movie,
and
but it's a really good game.
Yeah, those are both really good games, but nobody gave them a chance.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting that these different ways they portrayed the world were able to sort of combat that and bring in a lot of different people.
Number 3!
Leading into our next one, this game is very accessible to everyone, and what I mean by that is, if you're a newbie at loving Batman, you don't have to know a ton going into these games about him to be able to get into his character and learn more about the other characters in the games and get really into the story and the other villains. But this game also services comic book fans who do know a lot about that stuff and love these characters already. It gives them what they've been wanting and what they feel like they've been lacking in movies, especially, because it gives you these villains that we don't usually get to see very often. I mean, to be fair, they also give us a lot of Joker, which we see in like every movie ever, but they also give us awesome villains like Bane and Deadshot and Deathstroke and just a lot of other fun people. I mean, it also services people who've just seen the movies, who haven't really just watched much other than
like maybe they haven't seen the cartoon.
Yeah, like they haven't seen the cartoon or they haven't read the comics.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because if you've just seen Batman 1989 and Batman Returns, right? Other than just the racetracks, there are references to these games, or I'm sorry, to these movies in the games. You know, things like you might recognize Ace Chemicals, obviously, from Batman the Animated Series. Maybe you've only seen that. You might recognize certain characters from Batman the Brave and the Bold, if maybe you were a kid who watched that, grew up watching that cartoon. Maybe you watched The Batman and you saw that version of the Penguin and then he's here. Or maybe you're just a hardcore comics fan, you've been reading since the 80s or 90s or whatever. There is a lot here for different levels of fans, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think, too, the amount of people I know who became Batman fans, and I guess fans of comic books and DC Comics especially, and these properties and superheroes, just from playing something like Arkham Asylum or Arkham City, it's a lot. I mean, the comments are usually filled with some, you know, with people who say like, hey, these games got me into superheroes, or these games got me into comics, or they got me interested in Batman, or a mixture of all of the above, right? There's people now going to see, you know, the Avengers, or Wonder Woman, or be excited for The Batman, or Superman, or any of this stuff, right? Who got into it because they played Arkham Asylum, or because they played Arkham City. I mean, that's big. It's hard to create introductory platforms that are also really, really fan servicey to people who are deep in already. It's interesting because you can also go into these games as a new fan, and you can know something about Batman. You can know something about Harley Quinn, about Joker, about their relationship dynamic, about how hot Harley is. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting off track myself. You know, you can go in here and learn about these characters, and you know what? Yeah, there will always be the guy who's like, well, I read Crisis on Infinite Earths, and in that one, blah, 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 so you're wrong. But this is a separate continuity. You know, so you are able to go into this and enjoy this continuity. If this is all you care about for a continuity, I think you might be missing out a little bit, because there are a lot of good ones, but you can learn about those characters there, and you can just enjoy that version of them, or you can take that knowledge outside of it and start getting into other ones. You know, it's not just an entryway to the characters, but it's a way for you to know something and contribute. I think you and I were talking about comics. One thing that's really rough with comic books, despite all the reboots, in a way they are all still canon to each other through things like multiversal reboots, through things like the Monitors in DC, through things like Dr. Manhattan's interference in the New 52, all this stuff, right? Where you almost need to know years of history of comics to have a discussion. You don't need that with Batman Arkham. You don't need that at all.
And that's really incredible. And it's also really incredible that something like just a video game could bring so many people together and get so many people interested in something like Batman or superheroes in general. Because I think superheroes in general bring a lot to my life and your life and other people's lives. And it's given a lot of people places to express themselves and find friends, and that's something that makes me really happy.
And it gives people something to look up to, you know, like I know that probably there's going to be viewers in the audience who have religion and other stuff like that, right? But you know, there's nothing wrong with having role models. And you don't need to follow Bruce Wayne's methodology of beating the crap out of people, but the idea of a role model of trying to make yourself more than you are, of trying to stand for something, of trying to be not self-righteously, but trying to be moral in a world where it's too easy not to be. Those are concepts that are real. Those are real life things.
A lot of people struggle every day with just, how do I be a good person? I know I've struggled with that before, and I'm sure you probably have too.
I absolutely have not, because I'm perfect, but I understand some people do. No, yeah, it is a struggle, and I mean, you see these characters struggle through these games, and you see a lot of different struggles and ways of handling things. I mean, how to be a good person. Bruce Wayne in this continuity lets it consume him. I mean, to the point where people don't even understand the ending of Arkham Knight. It's very heavily implied that's Bruce Wayne at the end. Batman is not dead. He fakes his death through the Nightfall Protocol. He says he has to become more. Batman needs to become more. He essentially sacrifices his entire personal life to create this thing to torture criminals, you know? Nightwing doesn't do that. He keeps Bloodhaven safe, and he's kind of a jokey guy. You know, he's more Spider-Man-ish with how he handles things.
And he still has his Dick Grayson persona, whereas at the end of Night, Bruce Wayne's gone, and it's pretty much just Batman with the help of a fear toxin.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, these are people struggling to be good, to try and fix the world around them in obviously imperfect ways, but the best they know how to. But it's still a struggle of how to be a good person that's different, you know. Nightwing's going to be different in handling that than Bruce, than Tim, than Barbara. It shows the humanity of these characters, and I think that that is interesting with the accessibility because it allows you to see human beings in a lot of ways and how they tackle problems.
And also, going back to the whole teenager thing with the last point, it also helps to give teenagers something to see that is good, and it helps them grow as people, I think, to realize, hey, Batman's like that. I want to be a good person too and help people in my life.
Well, and not to say that, you know, fictional characters are moral paragons that are always to be followed, but I do think there's, not to be preachy and old man here, but I do think there's far too many celebrities that are not people you want to be like.
Yeah, and not people you really want your kid looking up to.
No, but like characters like Batman, Superman, The Flash, Spider-Man, you know, the Avengers, characters like this, they're imperfect, but they're trying to do the right thing. And you don't really, beyond a writer, you don't have to worry about it coming out that they, you know, touched somebody or, you know, did something really awful, right? Like, these aren't heroes that are going to generally be ruined for you. And I think that that's very special with the accessibility as well.
Number 2!
The next one is the mixture of stealth and combat elements. Now, I think we can go a little quicker with this so that we don't hit, you know, 30 minutes or something. Had a lot to say in the last point. But with this, it's interesting because usually when games try to combine these, they do one very well and one very poorly. I know that everyone loves, and when I say everyone, I mean the minority, because we can't get in our game, I'm with you here, loves Splinter Cell. You know, a lot of people talk about Splinter Cell for stealth games. I love Splinter Cell. You know, those games with Sam Fisher where you're going through it, it's basically all stealth. The stealth is fantastic, right? It took until probably the 3rd or 4th game in the series for them to get combat down well, because it was focused on stealth and combat was an afterthought. It was if you need to fight, it's there. Batman kind of goes into this with, you are a stealth master, but you are also a martial arts master. You feel like both. You don't feel like one and then you have, you know, a very hard time with the other. They both work very well. They're designed, the game is designed to promote both styles of play in different situations.
And it's really incredible because you have things that show it off, like your fight with Deathstroke in Origins. That shows off the combat very well, but it also has areas like the Predator areas where you are going around taking out dudes without letting them see you once. And those things, I think, are really incredible to have in a game together and not use it as a gimmick. And it's also something that is just really fun. I've always loved stealth in games. I find it to be really interesting and fun. And I like thinking out my moves and being able to do whatever I want, which is a grievance I have with some of the newer Assassin's Creed games, which is like a tangent. I feel like I can't do whatever I want. I feel like I'm being forced to like go do full sync rather than decide what I want to do.
Yeah, I hate that too. To be fair to them, they did sort of fix that after Unity, I believe, but now it's so big that it's the opposite problem. There's so much to do now in Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla that a lot of people feel lost and don't want to engage, you know? So it's like, it's impossible for some people, I mean, it shouldn't be, but it's impossible for some people and teams to balance those things, right? Letting you choose, but also giving you direction. I think these games do that very well. And to speak to your point real quickly about a gimmick, Call of Duty, I know I always mention it meme time, but Call of Duty, pretty much every campaign has almost a obligatory stealth level that sucks. You know, where they throw in a gimmicky stealth level and it's just awful.
And it's like, why did they even do that in the first place?
Yeah, I know that in Ghosts there's a horrible one. In Advanced Warfare, I think there's one of the only ones I've played that's actually really fun. But generally it's not well thought out because the game wasn't designed for that, you know? But with these games, it's designed with both styles incorporated in mind, and I think that that's great and really rounds out the series. You might be better at stealth, you might handle things a little differently than me, I might be better at combat, I might handle things a little differently than you, but if you're at least serviceable at one or both, you can make it through the game.
I think it's really fun too that, you know, if you're standing on one of those gargoyles and a dude walks underneath you, you can take, what is it? I think
inverted takedown?
Yeah, you can do the inverted takedown, which is one of my favorites. I think he uses a grapple for that. and you just kind of hang them upside down, or you can sneak up behind them and strangle them.
Right.
But with the combat, you can do things like that too, where you can take their poles and hit them over the head with it, or you can
tase them. You can break their knife and then break their arm.
It's really fun that you can choose to do these different combinations of things, and I think that makes it really unique, and also, like you said, helps round out the series as being a good series.
Number one. It's number one.
The final thing is that this is Batman. That's it. We can wrap it up right here. No, with Batman, there are certainly products that are not good.
Yes.
You know, absolutely. But if you look at them, they are typically financially successful. Why do you think that out of comic books, which is a industry that, as much as I like it, is not as profitable as it used to be, especially with the rise of digital media, with trying to get people to switch to digital comics, with especially the pandemic, right? All these things. Why do you think Batman constantly gets new series? Because he sells. Why do you think Batman constantly gets reboot after reboot in the movie theater scene? He sells. How many other characters are there that you could easily reboot like that? I mean, the only one I can think of, I can think of two that I think people would not be super averse to, and they still fight back. Spider-Man, and Superman, because people are used to it.
With Superman and Spider-Man and Batman, nobody really associates just one actor with those faces.
No, I mean, the only actor I can think of that's associated with, like, Batman is Kevin Conroy, the voice actor.
Yeah.
But, like, nobody would say, like, cast him... I mean, they would. We wanted live-action Batman with Kevin Conroy. They kind of messed it up in Crisis on Infinite Earths, sadly. But a lot of people wouldn't say cast him as the new movie Batman, right? Unless he was Batman Beyond or something because of his age, as much as the guy is just legendary. You know, I do think that that's interesting to point out that there is so much iconography, iconicness, whatever you want to say, with Batman that really shines through, not just in these games, but in every property he's in that brings in fans. There are massively dedicated fans of the 60s Batman show. There are massively dedicated fans of Michael Keaton's version of The Dark Knight, of Brave and the Bold, of Batman the Animated Series, of The Batman, not the movie, but the show. You know, all these different incarnations of this character, because this character is something more than just who plays him. He means something to people. And
you know what? Just at the end of the day, people love Batman. People love the idea of someone who is just a man and not, you know, super genetically charged or a mutant or whatever.
Or from outer space or whatever.
Just a man who can fight crime and be incredible like that. It's just something that, again, people look up to. And to be honest, you just throw that name on something and it's probably going to sell to a lot of people.
Yeah, at least the first wave of it. You know, like even you look at something like Batman and Robin. It has a lot of problems. I don't know the numbers. I don't think it was like massively successful to like a great extent, but even the first push of that, there were still people going to see it, you know, despite it being a really garbage movie, because it was Batman and there was a history there. You know, there's a rich legacy for this character. Even if you're not a fan, you know, there's like a ton of movies, there's a ton of cartoons, there's a ton of comic books, there's such a backlog of lore and things to pull from and a legacy to live up to, that you put Batman on something and it must mean that WB or whoever's doing it, right, has some faith in that project to be good.
And to be honest, the Batman games, they didn't have to be good games to sell because it is Batman, but it is such an incredible thing that those games are so well done and amazing. And we can only hope for more good ones in the future.
And it's worth pointing out, a lot of Batman games before these were not good.
Yeah.
You know, there are some, you know, examples of good ones. Actually, some of the 2D side-scrollers are pretty fun. But there's a lot of Batman games before this. I'm looking at you, Rise of Sin Tzu, that are not that great. That really could have been. But it didn't catch on mainstream like this did. But then when we got to this, where it was this real-life feeling mixed with elements of the animated series and all these other incarnations of Batman, it really brought people in. And like you said, I can't wait to see what the future is for the character. I do think there's more to offer people beyond just Arkham with Batman. I think that a new continuity at some point would be great. I don't really understand tying Suicide Squad to this But
I don't understand it either. However, I do hope that just like Batman, when we turn on that game, we feel like Bruce Wayne. And I hope that in Suicide Squad, whichever character we turn on, we feel like them and we get to experience how it would be as them.
And I gotta be honest, you're talking about characters like that. I hope I can turn on Harley when I play that game.
I hope we can feel Harley.
I hope we can feel like Harley.
Yes.
Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on this video? What are your thoughts on what made this series so popular, I guess so successful, and really unique? What do you think this did that made it so different from other Batman games? If you played ones before or after or mobile or whatever, what do you think about it?
What do you love about these games?
Why do you connect with them?
Yeah, why do you connect with them, and what makes you think that they're such incredible games?
Yeah, let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to check out everything in the links down below. We appreciate it very much. We have a lot of things going on. My wonderful wife, has a sale going on her Etsy shop, which I actually helped design some of the stuff for during June, so we hope you'll check that out. I believe it's 10% off?
Yes, it's actually 15% off.
Oh my,
and
generous.
The sale ends on June 10th, so you should probably go over there and see if, you like some things.
Especially things I made, if you like me.
They're very cool, and I'm also going to be putting up new stuff soon, so that's also going to be fun, and there will be more sales in the future.
Yeah.
So if you favorite my shop, you'll get a notification every time I have a sale.
And we also have things going on down there in the description with the secondary channel, where we'll be playing through a wide variety of games, podcast style, hanging out with you. If you ever wanted to talk to me, ask a question, just see what I'm like when I'm not doing something scripted, that's a great place to hang out. We have a good time there, smaller community, lots of fun. And as always, be sure to check out the other videos. In a final note, those of you who are still here at the end, because it is a long video, even after wonderful Jill edits it down, I'm sure.
Yes.
We are having some troubles with our channel in terms of growing, in terms of getting people to see our stuff. Even Batman. Batman for a long time was, I don't want to say the golden goose, but it was something where if I uploaded Batman, if I was excited and I was like, I'll make an Arkham video, people saw it. We have had a hard time with YouTube recently with people seeing things. It's been a rough couple of months.
People just aren't seeing your videos that you put lots of love and hard work and time into, and they're really good. I'm not just saying that because I love him. I genuinely think they're good videos.
No, I mean, even things like I released a Metal Gear Solid video about why it's special to sort of get people interested in the franchise. And, I think like a few thousand people saw it and only like 1,000 watched it. They just don't show my stuff to people. So if you are willing to, there's lots of ways to help the channel. Watching other types of videos that I upload is a big one. Even if you're just a fan of Batman, watching through the other Batman videos actually helps us out a lot. Checking out new stuff that you might become interested in helps us out a lot. Telling your friends, hey, I know this YouTube creator who's not a complete douchebag, you should check him out. Just things that are nice.
You know what's good about you being a YouTube creator? You don't, no touch people like a lot of other YouTube creators do.
No, hold on. No, wait a second. We don't need the controversies coming out. But yeah, we would appreciate the help on that too. There's lots of ways you can help us out. We appreciate very much. We hope you have a fantastic day. Those of you who have stuck around to the very end, you are crazy, but thank you.
And stay shway!
As always, stay shway.